All right, we are live. Let's
Oh,
go.
okay. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the DC Incentives Podcast. I am your co-host Naren, followed by DC, of course. And today we have a fantastic, wonderful, highly educated, and favored guest, founder of the ambitious legacy firm. And without further ado, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am Sabine Franco. Some people know me as Sabine, the Purpose Lawyer. I am, yes, founder of the Ambitious Legacy Firm. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for over 10 years. I'm an author, speaker, educator, all those things. And we focus primarily on, planning legacies, protecting properties, and we also help people put vehicles in place to pass on that generational wealth that we're always hearing about. So that's me. Oh, and I'm a wife and a mom. My other very important hats.
Of course, it's all important. Don't
Yeah.
downplay that at all.
Cool.
Okay, so we're here to talk about trusts and wills. I mean, trusts
And
Wilson
well,
Trust.
and
yeah.
wills and trusts. Sorry, I
Uh,
just because
You
I
got it.
know I don't know the order in which they go, and I don't know if it's trust and wills and
It
trusts.
doesn't really matter. It's just how people, are accustomed to talking about it. But
Okay, so
mm,
I guess we can just get right to it. What
mm.
is the difference between a will and a trust? Can you define the two?
Yeah. So a will and a trust are both considered testamentary documents. So what that means is it's a way for you to be able to dictate how you would want your wealth to be passed on if something were to happen to you. With a will, it only really comes into effect when you pass away, right? So if you pass away and there is a will, your will directs the court on how to distribute essentially your assets. So
Hmm.
now it's really direction for the court, and it really gives a court insight on what you want. However, if it's not clear in any way, then the courts are going to, have to interpret what they think might be what you wanted, right? But
Okay.
yeah, but with a trust, um, it gives that opportunity to pass on your assets, but it comes into effect immediately, essentially. What I mean by that is if you fall sick or you end up in the hospital or whatever the case is, and you can't manage your affairs or you have a temporary issue, your successor, the person who steps in to manage your trust after you, it's called a trust. Yeah, the person who manages the trust is a trustee, right? That's the person who
Okay.
has control. If you
Okay.
are the trustee of your own trust and you can't manage your trust because you're ill in one of those situations, then your successor trustee steps in and does that for you. And so it has that added benefit that you don't have to be dead, right? And it also bypasses the court system, right? So you don't need a judge, you
Court
don't need a
interpretation.
right, and it's
Okay.
private because of the fact that it doesn't have to be recorded anywhere. Whoever needs to know is who will know, essentially. So
Okay.
that's the main overarching difference between your will and your trust.
okay, so let's go back.
I know that was a lot.
Let's go back. I know a lot of gems is going to be dropped. Okay, so let's get before we dive into
Mm,
in full detail about wills and trusts.
mhm.
Give a brief history about yourself.
Okay, so like how I got to.
Yes,
All
Yeah.
right.
yes.
There's like so many different things I could kind of like point to, but I guess I'll go this way. So I you want me to start back before I got to where I am type of
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. You know what?
Yes,
How
absolutely.
about,
Uh,
I mean, if you
yes.
knew you wanted to do wills and trusts before law school, you could talk about that. But primarily, you can start, I guess, from law school and how you transitioned into where you are
Okay.
today.
Yeah, so I did not know what I wanted to do when I went to law school. I kind of knew that I guess right before that I was working in corporate America. I worked in the mortgage lending industry. And I worked for some banks, I worked for some brokers, I worked for a venture finance firm. And I was young, I was 24, I was making some decent money. And I,
Hmm.
at the time, not like these 24-year-olds today, making some decent money, and but I kind of was just like, what am I doing with my life type of thing, that quarter life crisis
Yeah.
situation. And I was like, you know what? I always had this idea of going to law school. Let me go to law school, but I didn't really think through because information wasn't as readily available as it is now, right? So although it was only 10 years ago, a lot has changed. Um, um, I didn't really think through like what exactly it is that I wanted to do, but I did enjoy
Mhm.
law school. And when you go to law school, you actually take all types of courses because in order to pass a bar, it's not on one specific subject. So, like you can't be like, I want to be a criminal lawyer and I'm gonna go study that, and then when I get out, I'm gonna take the criminal bar. No, it doesn't work that way. So you got to learn all these different subjects, contracts. You got to learn about the court system. You got to learn about federal court. You got to learn about wills and trusts. You learn about real estate. You learn, so there's all these different things that you learn about, and you're really trying to like gear yourself for passing this bar exam. So I did that like any other law student, kind of just like took all the courses. And when I got out, it was I went in 2008, got out in 2011. And when I got out, it was like post the 2008 crisis. I don't know if you guys are
Right.
familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bubble bursting.
The bubble bursting. And
Yeah.
so it was kind of like it was slim pickings out there in terms of jobs, and it was very
Yeah. Even as a lawyer.
even as a lawyer. That your face right there is exactly how I was feeling at that time.
I was so
I was
confused.
like, I'm sorry, what? With all these loans, yeah, that's exactly what it was. So shortly after I finished law school, I was expecting my daughter. I got married before law school, young
Mm,
but happy. And then after like probably like within 6 months I was expecting my daughter. So I was like, I'm gonna open up my own firm and just start taking clients. I did work for a firm for like a few months, and then I worked for other lawyers, just like going to court for them and doing, learning the ropes. And
mhm.
and then after I had my daughter, I was just kind of like taking on clients, and that's how I built my firm. So I started taking on, my uncle had a divorce situation and he really needed help, and he was struggling with alcoholism and all that stuff. And
Mm.
I took on his case and really helped him out. And then I just started getting referred, other matrimony and divorce cases, family cases. And then I knew real estate because I was in that industry prior to. So I started practicing real estate,
Right.
taking up,
You
doing
were
closings and
mortgaging
things
loans,
like
right?
that. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I had a passion to work with small businesses. I knew that I wanted to do that. So, I did a trademark here and there. I did a contract here and there, and it sort of like built my skills that way. And then next thing you know, it sort of evolved into this trust in estates because I'm sure you guys are familiar. I was on the tour with DJ MV and Caesar, or
Mhm.
maybe you don't know. So the real estate, they had a real estate tour, and we were going to like different states, trying to educate people on real estate ownership and protection, protecting those things that you own. And I met a lot of people, a lot of families that were like, this inheritance was meant for me, but they didn't leave the deed properly, or they didn't have a will, or it's a very heavy lift for people who are not familiar with the legal system and may be intimidated by it when
Right.
somebody passes away and they got to figure out the process on how to get, even if it was something that was meant for them. Can you hear me good?
Yeah. Yeah. We can hear you
Yes,
just
I
fine.
do.
Okay, your face, I was like, is he can hear?
No.
No, no,
No.
no.
We
It's
can hear you
not
just
that. It's
fine.
just that when I make this face, that means a comment just dropped
Oh,
down, and we have a question.
all right, no problem.
No, but that's the purpose of this podcast, to inform people about things they otherwise wouldn't have known, like
Yeah.
trusts and
Hmm.
wills.
Yeah.
So so essentially, the trust and will industry found you. You didn't find it. I'm
Exactly.
right. I was
Yeah.
thinking maybe you were gonna have like some Goodwill Hunting moment where you were in the law school and suddenly you took that class and everything just clicked.
No, I did take trust and wills in law school, and it was very interesting to me. Um, I don't know. I think I was a little bit intimidated by the industry, to be honest, because there's a lot to know and a lot to understand with like helping people protect their wealth. And so at that time in law school, probably it was intimidating in that sense. The other thing about it was because there is like this, like it's a sort of about death and sort of about dying and
Mhm.
preparing for that. And so that was one of the things that at the time I was like, yeah, not ready to like be, all my clients are going to
Right,
eventually
right. Stay
die.
away. Stay away.
And have to be involved in that. So, but obviously I matured and I realized that there was a need and there was, a lack of information and sort of a white space where people needed help. And it's mostly, Black and brown people who are not privy to this information and are losing wealth, at a more rapid pace or more broadly than any other culture.
Can you expound upon that? Have you taken on interesting cases where you sort of prevented that from happening?
Yeah, I mean, so that's like what we do every day, where we are sort of helping people putting their plans in place. So we're creating wills, we're creating trust, especially for families where there are, I guess, contention, right? So there's a bunch of siblings or siblings and nieces and nephews and things like that. A lot of different
Mm,
personalities, varying levels of sort of like education and rationality. And so helping them to put in like, the person who has the wealth, who wants to pass it down, helping them to create a will or a trust and iron out these scenarios to avoid the families fighting and things of that nature.
right, yeah.
I had a family. It was like four siblings, and they were their mother had a bunch of properties, and she had properties in different states, and so she came to me and was like, I need to put my paperwork together, et cetera, et cetera. Two of her siblings. Sorry, two of her children get along, and two of them, are at odds with the rest of them. So she's like, I really need to make sure that this is protected. So we started doing her plan. It usually takes us about 6 weeks to like get it all buttoned up from beginning to end.
Hmm.
And we started working on her plan. 2 weeks later, she's like, "I need to sign tomorrow." And I'm like,
What?
I'm like, why do you need to sign tomorrow? She's like, I'm not well. I'm going into the hospital, and I know that I need to sign tomorrow. I
Mhm.
literally, went to the hospital, had her sign, and then the next morning, she passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. And
So
it's
when
not sorry.
no, so when somebody passes away like that,
Mhm.
after you do all the paperwork, is there any more to your job in terms of
Mhm.
diluting the wealth of the person that passed away?
So
Uh, mm.
I'm sorry, Nairon. We got two questions.
Oh, oh,
Before we get to your questions, let's answer let's Sabine answer these questions, and then she's gonna get to your
Then we'll
questions because
move
I know
on.
you have
gotcha.
a million questions. Okay, so do you think you really need to go to college just to take the bar, or is it that college gives you a push due to the fact of the name of the school?
You absolutely have to go to college. Law school is in addition to college. So, you have your 4-year degree, you get your bachelor's. It kind of doesn't really matter what you get your bachelor's in. Law schools like diversity, so they like that you have like sort of like a broad background, or it doesn't have to be specifically in the law. But as long as you have good grades and you can get a good score on your LSAT, which is the test that you take to get in. Um, so you have to go to college before or after college, or I guess your junior, is it, I forgot, freshman, sophomore, junior, right? So your junior year, you can take the test LSAT to get into law school if you want to go right after. I took 3 years off, so after I finished college, I worked for 3 years, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to law school.
Hmm.
Um,
Just
so
to
the
add more work to your plate,
just
I'm
to
sure
add
that.
because like why not? I had no loans, no debt, and I was like, yeah, let me just go to law school and get
Just
all
gonna
this.
jump right to the point.
um,
Okay.
and yeah, so does it give you a push? It's not so much giving you a push, but it's like really required in most states. Some states have it where you can go through some different hoops to become barred, and as long as you pass the test you can do it, but for most states they're going to require you to go to an actual school and learn.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay. Second question. Shout out to Charles. Do you think,
Hmm.
as a woman, as well as being a woman of color, you find it harder to help family in this so-called male-dominant field?
Yeah, I would say yes, just because there are like so many biases against women and then women of color, right? So
Mhm.
you have to prove yourself a lot more. Um, I've seen situations where a male may not be as qualified or may not be as knowledgeable and would be taken more seriously, without question than a woman. So it is male dominated, it's white male dominated, and it is a little bit more challenging. But everybody has their tribe. Everybody has their tribe, and everybody's looking for something. I think that I also have a lot of things on my firm has a lot of qualities that people do like we are personable, we're compassionate, we're relatable, we're patient, we have a clear proven process, so all those things sort of help us. But like, and I was having this conversation last night that you can't be mediocre as a black
No,
woman attorney, right? You got to be
no.
better than most. And so because of that, you got to kind of be on your p's and q's. So yeah.
Let's go. Oh, that was okay. So Naron, go ahead with your questions and then
Are you sure, Rich? Because we got audience members cutting me off to get their questions going.
go ahead, Naron.
All right. So I guess to go back to the scenario where the
Mhm.
person passed away and she had four children. So after she signed the will and trust, what were the next steps? What's your job after that?
So the good thing is when we signed with her, we had her sign her deeds and stuff to get those transferred into her trust. Because when
Hmm.
you create a trust, you have to have it funded. So you have to have those things that you want your trust to be able to control needs to be owned by your trust or somehow be funneled
I'm,
into your trust.
I'm confused. When you say it needs to be funded, how do you fund a trust?
So, say for instance, you have real estate, and then you have investment accounts, you have some bank accounts, and say you have a business. So, with your real estate, your deed, your document that states that you own that property,
Hmm.
you need to transfer that to your trust. So you need to sign a new deed from yourself or whomever you and whomever owns it to your trust as the new owner. So now once that's filed and recorded, your trust is the new owner, right?
Right.
And so the person who's running your trust, whether it's you or your successor or someone else, whatever the situation is, person who's running your trust now would be able to direct or walk out those directions that you've given as to that property. If your trust does not own it, if you never did that transfer, then the trustee has no authority over that asset, right? Um,
Really?
yeah, and that's often something that people don't realize, or it's not emphasized for some reason, and they can create a trust and not fund it, and then it's like you never did anything at all, right? So
So what is that, like a loophole that people don't really know about? Like I think
it's
we should
not
talk about that and emphasize that for a second.
yeah, it's not a loophole. It's a necessary step. It's a necessary step to have um it's a necessary step to have your trust funded. So with her, because we knew that and she was like, it's, a rush, we had the deed signed, that same day so that we could go ahead and record it. So that's what we
Mm,
did next. We recorded those deeds so those assets could be transferred. And then you had asked me before about, I had mentioned like if you have a bank account or investment account, your accounts, you either want them to be again titled in the name of your trust or you want your trust to be the beneficiary. So like a
mhm.
lot of people open up these investment accounts, especially today, just open up TD Ameritrade, open up E-Trade or whatever the case is, and they're not completing the beneficiary part. So and they don't make it that visible. If you go into your account and you look at all the like different features, they have a section where you can add a beneficiary. So that means if something were to happen to you, this person will automatically own these assets or have the rights to them, right? It's like one of the ways to easily pass something on without having any sort of plan in place, right?
Got you.
And so when people don't do that and they don't have a plan in place, then what happens is these assets either get lost because nobody knows of them, or they're kind of just they end up in the Department of Unclaimed Funds. So every state has a Department of Unclaimed Funds. New York has about 17 billion right now in the Department of Unclaimed Funds, and that's like people who died or other monies that they may be entitled to that they never
Yes.
got. But a lot of it is people who died and nobody claimed the assets because they didn't even know they exist.
Shoot, I lost some assets. I got to go to the I got to go to that website,
Yeah,
find my $17 billion asset.
yeah, everybody should check because you never know if there was like a job that you had or something that you are entitled to those monies and they're there.
Hmm.
That's important to know. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
why? So let's get into,
Mm-hmm.
for someone that works a 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
can they have a will or a trust?
Yeah, you could have both. You can have one or both. So I usually tell people like when you're building your wealth, or if you're just starting out, or you have a modest amount of assets, like say less than 100,000, you may want to just consider having a will. A will, like I said, it's going to get, if you have a well drafted will that is signed properly, it's
Hmm.
going to make it easier for your family to get your assets, right? It's going to, yes, you have to go through the court process, but at least there's direction. At least it says who your family is, who you want to get what, and it makes it a much quicker and much smoother process if your estate is not complicated. Um, so everyone should have at least a will, right? Especially even if you're young and you have a business or you have something that you would want to be directed to someone if you were to pass away, and
Hmm.
something like writing down your beneficiary is not going to accomplish that, then you want to have a will. um, People who have a little bit more complex assets or have more assets, which most of our clients anywhere from 2 to 15 million, and it's everyday people. You'll be surprised. It's having more than one real estate property. It's having a retirement account, having maybe an investment account or something like that. um,
Hmm.
it accumulates. Having a life insurance, all of that stuff accumulates, and you'll be a lot of people are surprised once we put this thing stuff down on paper. They're like, oh wow, like I didn't realize how much that I had. And but those individuals most likely would need a trust. um Again, we don't say like cookie cutter everybody who is in this box needs a trust. We look at every situation, just because sometimes there are simple things that we can do to achieve your goal, that we don't necessarily have to do something like a trust. But
Okay.
I'm saying generally, for the most part, you would want to trust if you have, especially multiple properties, if you have properties in different states. Because remember, I told you about that probate process when you have a will. If you have properties in
Yes.
different states, you got to probate in every single state where those properties are located. So that's something that's like really like burdensome and troublesome for people when they have to go through that.
Okay. So essentially, just as simple as you can. I know we discussed this, and I think I have an idea, but as
Okay.
simple as you can. The difference between a will and a trust is what?
The difference between a will and a trust
Yeah.
is that with a will, you have to go to court for your family must bring your will to court to
Hmm.
get whatever it is that you left for them. And with a trust, you don't have to do that.
Right. Okay. All
Just
right.
yeah, it's
It's
just plug
simple.
and play. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess with a will, I mean, a trust has to be funded while a will doesn't necessarily have to, correct?
Yeah, good. Yes, that's true. And that's why you would have a will and a trust if you have a trust, because just in case there were some assets that were not in your trust or wasn't
Hmm.
funded properly, your will is there to act as a safety net to make sure that that gets to its final destination.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
So I want to set up a so
Hmm.
let's
Walk through a scenario.
I want to I want a will.
Hmm.
I'm going to the legacy firm.
Hmm.
How can I set up a will?
Okay. So what we typically do is we'll start out with like a questionnaire, really. And we're asking you, about your family. Are you married? Are you single? Do you have children? What are the assets that you have? And then once we review that, we have a call. a Zoom call, and we put that on a spreadsheet, and we kind of go over it together and go through each line item and ask, like, what are your goals with this? What do you want to happen? Because for some people, if they have young children, a will may not be the best route. You probably need a will because it says who's going to be the guardian of your kid if you're not around. But it might
Mhm.
not be the only thing, because when you have a young child, and if you were to pass away before they become an adult, they can't actually receive those inheritances directly, right? So then the court has to put somebody in place, if you haven't put a plan together, to basically guardian those funds and those assets until the child gets older. So it's an easier route to do that through a trust, because you don't have to deal with the whole sort of court process. So I say that to say we kind of like go through each thing to see, is this something that's right for you based upon your picture. And so once we determine like it is, then we'll say, okay, let's put your will together. We'll ask you, like, what do you want to do with this asset? Who do you want to benefit from it? And so on and so forth. And once we have all those questions answered, then we'll go ahead and the person will hire us. We will then go ahead and start drafting their plan. We send them a summary, kind of go over, okay, this is what we discussed, this is what we put together, this is what your final plan is going to look like, and kind of clear up all that information. Once we're on the same page, we just set up a meeting for them to sign, and then they're sort of like the ball is rolling.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. All right. That's
Mhm.
oh, that's a lot, but it's
It's a lot.
worth it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's worth it, and it's I say it's necessary to have that conversation. I was talking to another lawyer, who does trust in estates as well, and he says what he finds the most is in court, who have issues, is that they went online and tried to do a DIY situation, and it wasn't either complete, or it wasn't what they needed, and so
Mhm.
it didn't meet their goals. And so it's like there's a lot that goes into this area of law. It seems like it could be done. Just write down what you want, and it could go to this person.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Like
Yeah,
you made a lot more. You gave it a lot more steps than a simple right. Like I'm thinking, it's something like writing your last wishes on a loose leaf piece of paper can sometimes be legitimate enough in
right,
court should you pass away. Like I didn't think about all these extra steps that might be necessary.
right. Yeah. And then so we also talk about things like, okay, you want your house to go to this person. What if they're not alive? What if they don't
Mm,
want it? Like, what if they can't afford it? What are we doing with it? Are we
mhm,
using the life insurance to pay it off? What's going to happen? So certain things that people desire, we can't do through a will. We might have to do it through a trust, because it's that's the vehicle that allows us to do that. Like, if you want your life insurance to pay off your real estate, so that when your family receives it, they don't go into foreclosure and lose it, right?
right.
And so that happens day and night. Um, we can't do that with a will, because first of all, life insurance doesn't go through the court system; it goes direct. Now you have that money's going to go directly to someone. You can't say I want it to go to my mortgage company, right? They're
Right.
not going to do that. Um, and so it just gives us a little bit more creativity and flexibility. So if you say this is what I envision, and of course we guide clients when they're like, I don't know. But if you're like, this is what I envision, then we try to figure out how can we achieve that goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
like, is a trust something you have to be in charge of? Like for your clients, is a trust something you have to like overlook and oversee all year round, or is it one of those things where your clients come to you, the questionnaire, they fill out the questionnaire, everything is set up, and they sign the trust, and the trust is there, and they don't have to come back to you until the inevitable time when the
Mhm.
trust has to be enacted.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. So once we created a trust for you, you're the owner of that trust. Even if we no longer exist, that trust is still valid. It's your trust. If you want to get it updated, which we do recommend that at least every 3 years, that we're looking to see, has something changed in your life, and is this trust still good for you, right? Or
Mhm.
will, or whatever the plan is it still good for you? We're looking at that. However, you don't need to come back to us, right? Unless something changes and you want to change, or you want to change something. In terms of like adding new assets or removing assets from your trust, we empower our clients to be able to do that. So they don't have to come to us to do it. Sometimes they want to because they're just like, listen, I don't, but they don't have to. So it's not, yeah. So I wouldn't say that it's you just do it and it's one and done and you just like put it in a drawer and you're done. I would say it's something that, depending on how active your financial situation is or your picture is, then you want to sort of like check in and make sure that things are still working.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay, that's powerful. Yeah, that's powerful.
Rich, you got any questions? Does our audience want to cut me off again and give us any more questions?
Go ahead, Ron. You have a million questions.
All right. So I want to get back on your journey. So you finished law school, you worked for a couple of firms, and you decided to start your own practice right away, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Why did you decide to do that, and how difficult was that process, especially coming out of law school with those loans pressuring you and stuff like
Hmm.
that?
Part of it was I was too naive to know what to be afraid of. That's number one. The other one, I was too proud because the market was what it was, and what was available to me for employment was not attractive at all. And I told you, like, I was making good money in the industries that I was in. So I was kind of
Right.
like, I'm a whole lawyer now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I need to respect my title.
Respected in those dollars. I need respect to reflect
Yeah,
on my paycheck.
yeah. So, which I've learned a lot now that I probably would have done things differently, but that's the truth of what I was working with at the time. And
Hmm.
and sort of part of me too just felt like it was my path. Like this was the path that I was supposed to take. Because there were times, when you're an entrepreneur, like having a law firm is one, being a lawyer is one thing, having a law firm is a whole nother thing, and that
Hmm.
is entrepreneurship. And we all know entrepreneurship is challenging. It's like a roller coaster. You have to sort of figure it out. And it took me a while to figure it out. There wasn't as much information available. It took me a while to figure it out, and I had to go through those ups and downs. And I think one of the most surprising things for me is that this journey has showed me who I am. You know what I mean? It exposes
Hmm.
your vulnerabilities. It helps you to grow up, and helps you to figure out exactly what you want. Like you got to get clear about that when you're an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you're just like, you're all over the place.
Right.
Um, so though that's the challenge. The challenge is becoming a whole person, right? Like dealing with whatever issues that you may have, understanding how business works, and trying to, I guess, deciding what type of business you want, how you want this business to support your lifestyle, and
Hmm.
the impact that you want to make on other people. All those things got to get figured out, and it could be challenging.
At the beginning of
Mhm.
starting your firm,
Mhm.
was it just you, or did you have other
Mhm.
people around you that you knew you could work with? And how did that happen?
So it was just me in the beginning.
Hmm.
What I would do in terms of support from like more senior attorneys, I would just network with other attorneys. I would join networking groups, be part of bar associations, so that I can be around people who know how to navigate this industry and know how to do it. So one person would lead you to another person, and you'd learn things from one group and then another group. What I also did was there's like as an attorney, you can get access to these sort of like, I don't want to call it like software because it's sort of like more than that, where you have access to information from senior attorneys. You have access to the same information that the big law firms have access to. You have access to case law. You have access to. So I would pay for those things, and I would have resources. So like if I had a matter that I wasn't familiar with or I didn't know how to handle, I will go to those resources and basically learn how to do it. And
Hmm.
so that was like a really big thing for me. And then there's also something called CLE, so like continuing legal education. Every year, every lawyer who's licensed has to keep up a certain number of these um, CLE. So basically, what they are is you can take a class on anything that you wanted to learn. So like usually experienced lawyers would teach them. So they'll say, teach you how to, the 101 trust in the states, or like what's the updates in the industry for, this area of practice, this,
Hmm.
area of law. And so that's what I did, over throughout the years that helped me to continue to grow and to be knowledgeable. And I still have mentors still today.
Oh,
Really?
we all of us do.
I
Yeah,
have no mentor. I am
all,
mentorless.
You need
yeah,
one.
yeah. All of us have met. Yeah, the,
At this point, I mean, I looked through your website, I looked at your law firm, and you don't need a mentor. You seem good. You seem like you won. You know.
You know what it is? You don't know what you don't know, and
Hmm.
you need to get around people who are in a better position than you are, or where you want to be, or somewhere along the way of where you want to be, because then you learn, your eyes just get open to different things, right?
yes,
I'm just trying to find a good way to say it. Like when you are playing a video game and you get to a certain level, you're like, oh, this is cool. Like, how much better or how much harder could it actually be? But then when
Mm,
you pass that level, you get to the next level, you're like, oh, shoot, there's like this whole other realm that I didn't even, know about. And that's how I feel like mentorship helps you like get to that next level where you're like
gotcha.
opened up to all these other things. Like, oh, now I know how to work a lot smarter. Like my business is much more efficient. I have like all these systems in place. I know how to manage my team, and I know how to, there's just so many things that I learn leveling up, whereas if you don't challenge yourself with people who are either doing better or have different know-how, then you kind of sort of stay the same, and you can't advance if you're staying the same. Like it's just not going to happen.
Gotcha. So,
Mm.
so what's some of the best advice mentors have given you over the years?
That's a hard one. um i would say I would say networking, because in the beginning, I was really like sort of like shy. I'm a shy person. I'm an introvert, which most people can't tell. But um, and I didn't really want to put myself out there, and just like meeting people like either by chance or through working, or these mentorship situations. People would say it's really important to build relationships. It's really important to build relationships. And I used to think like, nah, I
Mm.
can do it without it. Like, do I
No,
have
I'm
to
just
go
gonna
that
stay in
far?
my shell. I'm gonna stay in my introverted
I
shell.
don't have to go to, but just like the more and more that, I put myself out there and like embrace, my way of doing things, or, my style, um, it has really, helped me find opportunity. It's helped my firm. It's helped me, get clients and build and all that stuff. And and I think that it's really one of the most important things, not just in business, but in life. And I wish that was something that was impressed on me much earlier, that your network is golden, because there are things you don't have to go through and you don't have to work through if you know somebody. You know how they
Yeah.
say, like, it's who you know. It's really really who you know, even at the highest level. It's who you know. So if
Mm.
you can network, and you can have not only just network, but also be integral. Try to be consistent with who you are, and maintain a level of integrity. Then you'll continue to go far.
and so
Awesome.
you said you was an introvert.
I listen. I've
Like,
had to force myself to become this person.
like when it was like, so when I met you at the Brooklyn Bank prom event, it was like when so many people just came up to and they was just asking you questions. Hey, Sabine, and I can't see that.
Because, well, so that goes back to what I was saying, like putting myself out there. I'm trying to, be in different circles and things like that, even though it was uncomfortable for me. Each opportunity made me better. Each opportunity made me, either more open or whatever. And I learned how to deal with that whole being introverted. So now I know I can take like events and things like that in small doses. So I was just at Invest Fest. I was there for like 3 days. After those 3 days, I can't socialize because
Oh,
I
you're done.
I need to recharge. Like I gotta go in
Yes.
hiding. So I learned how to deal with that stuff. Like it's almost like, running a sprint. I'm like, all right, I could do this. I could do this sprint. And then once I'm done, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go rest now. So that's how it is. You learn who you are, you learn how to deal with yourself, and you learn how to achieve your goals in your way, even if it doesn't come like natural for you.
Mm.
Mm,
Mhm.
Okay.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we all need that. Like
Hmm.
whenever we or event and you was in Invest Fest for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tyler Perry was there,
Hmm.
Harvey, and
What
you
was my invite to Invest Fest? We have a podcast. We should have had an invite.
You
Did
should have
I get
came.
lost in the?
You could come as media. You could come as media and just talk to people. There's a lot of people doing that. So next year, y'all should be
Yeah,
there.
no. Next year, yes. I'm putting that on paper. I am going to Invest Fest.
That's right.
Yeah,
Man.
and it's just around so many like-minded individuals. It was awesome.
Mhm. Great energy, great energy. You
Yes.
feel very inspired, and motivated, and it's fuel for me too, because when you're just doing, you don't know if the stuff that you're doing is either valuable or valid, or if it's working. But like when you meet so many people that are like, oh my god, I love what you're doing, like I'm inspired, or I learned so much, and now I know what I need to do, or my family needs to do this, or whatever the case is. I may not get all these people as clients, but it's going to be another family of color that is not losing their wealth, and I'm happy with
Mhm.
that. Like I'm in my to being a purpose lawyer, I'm in my purpose. You know what I'm saying?
So
So
that's the bottom line for your company. Like the main bottom line is to prevent specifically people of color from losing
mm,
out on wealth.
yeah,
That's a
that's
noble goal. That's
yeah.
a beautiful goal.
Thank you,
That's
thank you.
that's good.
Mm.
Okay, go ahead, Naron. We have more time.
We got more time. All right.
So
So
Naron, he's the one that asks you a million questions.
I love
I'm
it.
just letting him get all his questions out. Yeah.
no, full disclosure. I know a little bit about the legal field. I was a paralegal for about 4 years. So I
Oh,
know that.
awesome.
Yeah. I worked for big time law firms in the city to small boutique firms. So it's great to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing in terms of the law. Anyway, that's besides the point. Uh,
Because you do seem a little excited about it.
well, yeah, this is something I know about. I
Mhm.
dedicate a lot of time to the legal field. Um, but for me, the biggest accomplishment that I've seen so far about you is that you were able to start something as precious. I think what you're doing is precious, while
Thank you.
also being a mother and a wife. How did you balance that all,
Ah,
especially at the beginning?
That's a good question.
it's so there wasn't. I will say there probably now I'm the most balanced that I've ever been, but I wouldn't call it true balance because there's always going to be something that's going to suffer at the moment. So like in the beginning when I had my daughter and I was raising her, so my goal was pay the bills and have enough time to spend with and raise this child because these years you don't
Hmm.
get back, right?
Hmm.
So I kind of started off slow. When she was about 3, I was like, okay, you got this firm. Like, it's a business. Like, what you gonna do? Like, are you gonna build this or what? And so that's when I was like, okay, I got to start networking, even though I didn't want to. I got to start, putting myself out there and marketing the firm and all that stuff. And so things had to suffer a little bit at home. I didn't get to spend as much time with my child. Like, my marriage didn't get as much attention. Like, I needed to pull on more support from my tribe. And so there's a time for that, right? So that's what I meant by like you got to decide like the business that you're building, how do you want it to support your life? Is it that I'm
Hmm.
gonna grind for these 10 years and go hard and then and then I'm gonna, deal with my family or whatever the case is, or am I going to, try to find some middle ground, or am I just gonna go in on family and the business is like a side hustle? Like you have to decide that. And there's no wrong way. It's just like what is it for you, So for me,
Hmm.
it shifted at different times. In the beginning, it wasn't priority, and then it became priority. And then after being like so busy and not having any time for my family, and whatever the case is, I was like, okay, I need to find, one for my health and two for, my sanity. I was like, I need to find more balance. So I had to get a lot of boundaries. I had to
Okay.
decide what I'm going to do and what I have to say no to in terms of my time. And I had to, do things like, raise my fees on my firm so that it makes more sense, so that I don't have to spend, a million hours. I could hire more team members, like things
Hmm.
like that. Is how I learned to find balance. Another thing that I made priority is my self care and my self development. So I read a lot. I might take courses if I need to. I'll work out, do yoga, whatever the case is. I need to make sure that my mental is A1. And once I started doing those things, it sort of helped me find ways to work smarter. So,
Okay.
I'm budgeting my time better. But I wouldn't say it's a total balance. You know what I mean? Like sometimes things suffer. Like sometimes there's like a week or two where I got a bunch of things. I'm working all day and I got a bunch of things every evening. Family, y'all got to figure out dinner and all that other stuff, right? But then maybe the other 2 weeks I'm home every evening, and whatever the case is. So that's what I mean by that.
So when you started out, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, this was. I guess this is where having the husband plays a big role. I'm sure he took a lot on a lot of that a lot of that load.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
No,
quick
you're
way to my
good.
words.
You're good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He took on a lot of that load. When did you know it was time to expand? Because as I look through your business now, it's not just you; it's a bunch of
No, it's
you
not just me
started
now.
this organization. In this organization. So when did you start to, I guess, dilute some of the responsibilities onto other people? When did you know it was time to have other people you can trust to help build your firm?
Yeah, so the trust part is a really hard thing because that's what keeps people mostly stuck doing everything themselves. Like I can't trust anybody. It's almost like, um taking a leap. You just got to take a leap. You have to kiss a lot of frogs to see who you find who's going to be that golden team member. But for me, I realized I had like 2 years straight where I made the same level of, the company brought in the same amount of money, and I was just like, this is stupid because every year we were growing, and then it was just like, we made like literally the exact same money, and I was like, oh, obviously I can't grow past this. You know what I'm saying? By myself. Or it could have been I wasn't doing it the right way at that point, but that's when I was like, I need to start building a team. And I was also intimidated by being a leader because now you're responsible for somebody else. Once you hire somebody, they got to eat too. You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
got to make sure that this business is doing what it does. Um, and so those were those things that I was sort of dealing with. But once I realized that I wasn't going to make more money or I wasn't going to grow, then I started to hire. And then from there, it was like, okay, are we running efficiently? Do we have enough hands on deck to do what we got to do? And we would decide our hires based on that. Yeah.
Mm.
Got it. Okay,
Because I'm a
so
big customer experience person and I don't like when people have, issues in their experience. So I'm always like, okay, what do we need to do to fix it so no one else has has that experience?
Gotcha.
that's good. That's
Mm-hmm.
good. So you like to solve the problem before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, like if I see something on the horizon, I'm like, okay, we need to make sure this doesn't become an issue. Let's figure out a system for it. That's the whole thing. Like once you have a system for everything, then you could kind of navigate these waters.
That's
Awesome.
good. That's
Mm.
good.
So
Okay.
so as
Well,
a
Naira,
as an
we're pressed on time.
entrepreneur, you said
Naira,
you like. Oop,
we are pressed on time. Just letting you know.
oh,
But
okay,
go ahead.
right.
We're pressed on time.
All right.
So at the ending, because we have to get off at 10:15. You
Yes.
said, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So the three last questions. I'm gonna let Nairo continue, but the three last question is. I'm sorry, four last questions.
Hmm.
So, what is your end goal to pursue law? What is
Mm.
your general ultimate goal? Final thoughts, and how can people reach you on social media? But
Okay.
so yeah, that would be the ending questions. So,
Okay.
All right. So I guess I'll just get to the brass tacks. Are there any other pit, pitfalls that people should be aware of when it comes to trusts and wills? What are some general advice that you would give to people that they might not otherwise have?
I think everyone should at least explore what sort of what sort of things they need to put in place um, for their sort of life, whether you're ready to do it or not. I think you should know, start understanding what this is, what this area is, because it's not like it's elective. Everybody needs something. It's just like, what do you need, right? And it's good to like do it as a building block where you start to like put things in place now and you can build on that. Like for instance, every single person needs a healthcare proxy and a power of attorney. Very simple documents, basic. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to do it. And what it is a healthcare proxy is if you are ill and you can't make healthcare decisions for you for yourself, someone who can make those decisions for you.
Mm.
If you need a guardian to be over you because of whatever health issue, then that person could be your guardian. It's like something so simple that you could do, but not having it in place makes life so much harder for you and everybody else. The power of attorney. If you're young, you have a business, and something happens to you, who's going to continue your business? Who's going to make sure your customers, your needs are met, or bring somebody in, or pay the bills, or pay the rent, or whatever? Fill out legal paperwork. That's what those documents are in place for. Because once you're 18, your parents are not in charge anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
especially as an adult, especially single people, single women, single mothers, everybody needs these basic things. So it's good to just evaluate where you are, what you need, and what you have in your head as your goal. How do you actually achieve that? So it's good to have that blueprint in place to kind of know where you're headed.
Okay. All right.
that's that. I just want to say that was a gem you've dropped. A healthcare proxy. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yes.
That's a whole gem. I like. I wish that we were get into more detail, but we don't have enough time. Next time we'll.
Next time. Yeah.
All right. So, I guess you can start answering those other four questions. I don't want to take too much of your time.
No problem. Can you repeat the first one? So like repeat them for me.
What is your ultimate goal to pursue
Okay.
law?
So my ultimate goal is I really want to sort of revolutionize this industry. I know it's sort of like a big feat to to really say that, but I feel like it's sort of like not available to everyone in a sense because one, you got to go through a lawyer, which I'm happy to be that person, but it's challenging for a lot of people, and even just us having this conversation, like you guys are like in a space where you want to learn and you want to like help people learn, but not everybody is like that, but it doesn't mean that they don't need these type of things, right? So I want to make this accessible to everyone. I'm working on a tech platform to be able to do so. So that is my the future that I want to see in law, is that this information is available and accessible to everyone in their own language, the way that they can digest it, and it doesn't feel like so overwhelming.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Let's
Oh, let's
Interesting.
go.
go. Let's go.
Okay. What is your general ultimate goal? It can be anything.
um, my general ultimate goal, like just in life, is
In
just to
life.
be
Yes,
In
just
happy.
life.
life. Yeah, life itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna be happy. I want to own my time. I want to be able to travel freely,
Hmm.
and I want to make an impact on people's lives. Like I want my life to be meaningful, so that because I was here, the world was a better place. I know it sounds a little cliche, but that's my deep down. That's my driver. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. That's,
Yeah.
okay. So before we get into final thoughts, we still
Mhm.
have time,
Mhm.
but we still have final thoughts and to reach you on social media. So Naron,
Mm.
Ask away. All right. That's my that's my
I'm
cue.
That's what
telling
you
you,
want to
he
hear.
has a million questions.
No, you said your life is more balanced now,
Mhm.
and it was a little more hectic before. What is your day to day now? How many hours do you dedicate to your business? How much time do you have at home with your family?
Oh,
Break that down for us.
So
that's a good
for
one.
the most part, unless I'm doing like some networking or speaking or something like that, I'm usually work about 9 to 6. In the morning, I get up every morning at 5 a.m. I'll do affirmations, I'll read, I'll work out, and then once I'm done with that, because I like to ease in my day, I don't like to get up and have to go. Um, so
Hmm.
I do all that stuff before my daughter's up. So if it's school time, then I'm getting her ready for school and all that. If it's summertime, maybe camp or whatever the case is. Then once I'm in the office, I usually will have like my morning time is like my guess I have the most brain power. So I'll do
Hmm.
stuff that might be a little bit more challenging, like maybe drafting something or reviewing something that's technical or whatever the case is as it pertains to the law. Um, and then I usually have team meetings. I might have a meeting with maybe just on my trust and estates team or my administration where we deal with like matters that we have in court. um, I might have some client calls, some legacy sessions, which I still do some of them myself.
Hmm.
So I might talk to clients, coach them, or guide them on putting a plan together, things like that. I have like networking meetings that I'll do via Zoom as well, and so any one of those things could be part of my plate for any given day. I'll do like shorter consults as well if people we just want to explore what's going on
Hmm.
with their what they need or whatever the case is. And so that's really like mostly my day to day. Sometimes like I do go to court on on the stuff that has to be in court. But other than that, for the most part, it's I'm in the office.
Okay.
Mhm.
And after a long work day like that, because that 9 to 6, it's
It's long.
I feel like I'm suffering from 9 to 5, and then you got on an extra hour on top of that.
Yeah.
How much energy do you have when you get home?
Um, Before I used to be like, wiped out.
Hmm.
But now I try to sort of make time. I do this thing called transcendental meditation. It's like another form of meditation that sort of like sort of helps re-energize you. And
Hmm.
I'm not gonna get all into it because it's like a whole thing. But it does, sort of help if I'm really depleted, it helps give me, a boost. Um, Another thing, like if you just work out, you'll get like that another boost of energy, whatever
Hmm.
it is. So yeah, so it's like, it's a shift in my day. I do enjoy, being with my family, and I'm a mom. I really love that job as well. So it's sort of like a shift, like if you're tired, but if you like, change gears, you might like not be as tired,
Yeah, yeah.
from one place to another. And so that's just kind of like how it is. You just do it. I don't know, you just do it. It's like all of it is part of my life. So I just do it, and I take vacations. So
Yes, I think everyone should take vacations.
yeah,
It's like I think it's like a mental health.
it is.
Yeah,
Is it
it's
really?
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and you
I'm not a big vacation goer. I don't go that often. I never really. I don't know. I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I need a vacation to boost my spirits. Maybe I'll try that out. Maybe that might be a game
um
changer.
I think in addition to it's just like a break in the rhythm of life, right? So sometimes when you have a break in the rhythm of life, it allows you to either level up or see things from a different perspective. And usually when
Hmm.
you get a different perspective on your life, you can see things that either you want to adjust, you want to improve. It allows that. Plus traveling to different places gives you a different perspective on the world and life as a whole. So I think it does something to you, like it sort of like changes you, grows you in a good way.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
we got like 5 minutes, so I got one last question. real quick, real quick.
All right, go ahead, Daron. Okay.
I'm so sorry. Last question, I promise. I love what you represent in terms of wills and trusts. Do you ever plan on breaking out into another field of law or
Mm.
adding another field of law to your firm?
I've thought about it. So like I said, like I still have business clients. I still have some clients that we still do trademarks and stuff like that for. So we have a small practice, small part of our practice that does that. Not at the moment, but as the firm grows, you never know. Like
Mhm.
um yeah, you just never know. Like I don't have something in mind that I'm trying to get to this. But I'm not, closing myself off to that opportunity because at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So
Right.
I would make a strategic business move that makes sense, to expand in another practice area.
Awesome. All right, I'm done. I'm picking my next step. That's it. That's all I
All
got.
right, so we have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
In conclusion, final thoughts.
So this is final thoughts on the podcast. I'm sorry, I'm such a lawyer that I have to ask, like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. We just want to.
way.
We just want
Okay,
your
so
final. Yeah, we want your final thoughts on the podcast. Like, what are your final thoughts about who you are and what you brought to the table for this episode?
Mhm. So this conversation was very it was enjoyable. I feel like I got to sort of explain it in a different way than I normally do, and so that was cool. I love being able to sort of like talk about my path and my story, and a lot of people don't ask me about business, like in terms of my journey of being a business leader. So I
Mhm.
enjoyed that perspective as well, and I kind of like how you guys are really intrigued, right? You seem naturally curious, and so that's sort of like great energy. It doesn't feel like sort of forced. So that was cool. I thought I gave a lot of valuable information, and
you absolutely did.
people will be helped. Yeah,
Mhm.
Absolutely. Thank you for this.
sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
So how can our audience reach you? And if they want to set up a will or a
Hmm.
trust,
Hmm.
how can they reach you?
Okay, so um, our website is theambitiouslegacyfirm.com. You can also reach me on Instagram. I'm at Sabine the Purpose Lawyer. Um, just thinking what's the what's the best way. Our website and reaching me on social media is good. They could call the office 516-243-7440, and we'll be able to help you. Or you could also email legacy at franco-lawfirm.com. That's what my firm used to be called before we changed the name. So franco-lawfirm.com.
Let's go. Okay. Now the phone number. Just know this is public information. Is that
That's
okay?
fine. Yeah,
That,
yeah, it's on our
Perfect.
website. So
All right. All right.
okay.
Awesome.
yeah.
All right. That's awesome. All right. Well, that's a conclusion.
Mhm.
Thank you for being a guest on this podcast and dropping
Sure.
gems
Sure. Happy
on
to.
this episode.
Mhm.
So we have to go. I wish it was more time. Ooh, I had more questions, but
Promise
we
you'll
got
come back. You've been really informative. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much. All right, fellas, enjoy your day.
Hmm.
same to you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you both.
All
All
right,
right.
so
Bye,
that'll be
Sabine.
the ending of this podcast. Thank y'all for
All
listening.
right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.